Another evening together to talk about hope and restoration and what recovery is really about. Tonight, I don't want to talk about the negative aspects of addiction or the beginning processes. I want to talk about hope. I'm going to give a few seconds for people to come in. I'm going to enjoy a little bit of my tea. But the goal tonight is to talk about hope. And not just hope for the addict or the alcoholic or the person suffering from an addiction, but also hope for the family that they know that through a process of recovery and transformation, that their loved ones can be restored to sanity and to their family and to a healthy future. That's what I want this episode to be about. I want to invite people to share their own experiences. I know it usually takes about 3 to 5 minutes, so I'm in no hurry. And bear with me. We are here. I have no idea who's going to show up tonight. I'm just making myself present and hoping to have a few good conversations. Welcome in. Let me open my chat up. Okay. Welcome aboard. My name's Lance Wright. I'm an addiction recovery specialist. And if you watch some of my videos and the work I do, you'll come to see really quickly I care about people and their families and their loved ones in our communities. My main goal, who in there? I Syed. My name is Lance. I'm a recovery addiction specialist. Tonight, I want to talk about hope. For many of us, we know a loved one, a friend, someone close to us that struggles with alcohol, substance abuse, or some other problematic behavior in their lives. And I want tonight to be about hope. I want you to understand that there is hope for them, that the end is not here, and that they can change their lives, be restored to sanity, and be the friend you used to know. I've been doing this work for 32 years personally, and probably another 20 with people in education, in treatment, and privately doing interventions, doing pre interventions, walking through the whole process with family and the loved ones and their family afterwards. Let me see. Yes, I do, London. But I personally believe that in my journey, I couldn't be here without my Lord and Savior. Now, I'm not one to push religion on people, but I would share my own quickly. Um, I know without a shadow of a doubt I could not have done this alone. And that my salvation wasn't just hitting my knees, it was making a decision to change my ways and live a better life. Um, I'm not sure. Um, the interpretation, Matthew, you'd have to explain that a little bit more, Matthew, for me. I'm reading it on my computer because I can't see the screen this far away. But ultimately, I'm grateful for the man who taught me how to change my life and transform and grow up, basically, and become a man. I had no hope, even in my own self. My favorite Bible verse. That's a hard one. Me personally, I like stories. I like connecting the stories in the Bible to our lives and how it impacts us, and to see ourselves and to see that book still living in our lives and God working through us. Um, I was just in a group the other day. Let me see what you said. Leviticus, 8 day old. Amen. I don't have my Bible out. Um, But what I do know is I talked about Saul. And I talked about how sometimes, no, most of the time, God chooses those that are opposed to his will to make the greatest example of and to make the greatest tool and agent of his love and grace through in those men and women. And I just happen to be one of them, but I don't want to make this about me. Um, Outside of the fact that I'm sitting here talking to you, and at one point there was no hope in my life, and that today I'm the patriarch in my family, and I represent an essence of good in darkness, which is an amazing gift that God has given me. And I kind of liken it to Saul when he was out persecuting Christians. You know, and I was just talking to a young man the other day. I mean, most of us that are in that lifestyle doing things we shouldn't do, we know what we're doing is wrong. There's something inside that says, this isn't what I should be doing. Amen. And so, you know, it was like Saul's running around. I mean, he was the one that actually was holding the clothing for the guys who killed the first martyr. I want to say Stephen, but I could be wrong. It's been a while. Forgive me. But he was actually holding their cloaks while they did the dirty work. And he was on his way to Damascus with these men to do even more dirty work. Their job was to take out anyone, any believer. And they were doing it very efficiently from the way that the books and scripture define it. But on that way, that light shone down and knocked Saul off that horse. And he said, it's hard for you to kick against the goads. And I think what that meant is to kick against your own heart, your own truth, the truth of the universe, that you know who I am, and you persecute me through my loved ones. And I think today, much like that, sometimes we got to get knocked off our horse and get our lives redirected so that we can transform our lives into a place of goodness and decency. Part of my recovery, well, not a part of, a big part of my recovery is I actually have a relationship today. It's not based on a book or church. It's based in here, and it's living it. It's doing it. It's caring about people and carrying a message of hope. And then opening my mouth. It's about being that servant, the person I never thought I would be. And I remember, I can only imagine when that voice spoke to Saul that day, that Saul knew who was talking to him. And Saul had a conscience way back somewhere in point in time in that persecution of the community, that he knew what he was doing was wrong. And that day, that awakening that he was given, the direction he was pointed in, transformed his life into one of the most powerful men in the scriptures, in the New Testament. And he at one point even corrected Peter, you know, for being closed minded and limiting on God's love and grace to all people. Um, so, you know, I see his stories as our story. Wherever you're at, whatever you're going through, or maybe whatever your loved one's at, wherever your loved one's at, or whatever your loved one's is going through, maybe you can be that voice in the darkness for him or her. A voice of love, a voice of compassion, a voice of truth, a voice of accountability, but a voice of support to transform and change and become the person they know they are. And I've worked with a lot of people over the year. Somebody ran away on me. That's okay. Um, so I'm going to sit here and talk. That's my scripture talk for the night. Hopefully that somebody will see that and it'll help them connect to their own story. For a lot of us, we operate when we have a loved one, a friend, someone close to us that struggles with alcohol or substance abuse, and they get upset when we try to stop them. Or we fear intervening because we don't want to cause waves, we don't want to cause ripples. Um, it's one of those things that we have to be cognizant of. We have to be loving. We're not called to judgment. We're called to forgiveness. We're called to love. And for many families, that's very difficult because they've been carrying this torch for a while. They've been angry and pissed off. They've been abused and ran over. The problem with it is when someone is under the influence of a substance or a behavioral addiction, the only thing that matters is that, not their loved ones, not their family. Maybe inwardly, somewhere deep in the recesses of their heart, they know, man, I don't like this. It makes me feel like crap when I treat people that I love this way. But at some point, it gets it turns into a resentment. That hurt and that anger turns into a resentment, and it builds over time. I can't tell you how many times families have just said, I'm done with them. What's wrong with them? Because families don't understand what's going on and they need the help of a professional. They need as much help from a professional as their loved one does. Because no way in hell does anybody know what addiction is or how it operates or what it's about. Thank you for joining in, talking about transformation and hope for those struggling with alcohol or substance abuse or behavioral abuses, and the positive impact on family and loved ones and community when they make that transformation and how we can help them. Not only them, but the families that are struggling. That's really the goal of what I wanted to talk about tonight. And I hope you'll ask questions. Some folks did. Hopefully, I answered one or two of those correctly or somewhere in the ballpark for them. But really, I think we're all capable of change. And I want to say, even families. One of the hardest things for families to hear sometimes is that they just might be part of the problem. Maybe not even knowingly. Maybe it's something that happened at some point in life. I'm not justifying the behavior. I'm just saying sometimes we can focus on one minute space and time or space and time and forget the entire story of how someone got to that point. I don't believe a baby born innocent in a hospital is born to be a drug addict, alcoholic, thief, no good. That's just not something anybody can ever convince me of. It's not even in the realm of reality. Because everything we do as human beings is based on experience. Whether it's somebody imprinting something on us or we're learning something from our environment around us, we're creating neural pathways. We're developing our brain from a very young age to learn, to grow, and how we relate to the world around us. And in that space, in that space, I don't know if anybody's here right now, but bless you. Um, in that space, our lives are shaped. And we get to a place in there where we lose who we are. Maybe we never even really knew. Hmm. Yeah. We learn things. Society, our environment, what we experience is what programs us. It makes us who we are and defines where we go in life many times. If someone carries a lot of pain and hurt, sadness, sorrow, feeling unloved, unwanted, how do you think that's going to show up in their lives? How is that going to impact their relationships and how they see themselves in the world? Maybe they don't feel like they fit in or are different. Maybe they have a mental health issue that's undiagnosed, untreated, or not treated appropriately. What do they do? How does their life path end up? What is their perception of self in the world? And if you throw in a substance like alcohol or substances or something else that changes that and gives them a moment of grace, a moment of awakening, a moment of peace, they will want it again. they won't want to ever not feel that way. And they will begin to chase it. And in time, they will lose their way. Yeah. And sometimes in losing their way, the only thing that matters is the thing that they found that helps them escape that place. Hey, Bryce. Yes, I do, brother. Welcome back. Sorry I haven't been on in a couple days. It's been really busy. I'm talking tonight about transformation and change. This is just who I am. Tonight I'm talking about hope and what it means for someone to change their lives and what that means to their family and their loved ones. You know, you kind of already kind of know where I come from and I care about people. It's what I do for a living. Someone the other day was asking me why I do so much, and it's because somebody did it for me. Um, I'm glad you stopped by and say hi, man. How you doing anyway, Bryce? What's going on out there for you? Anything special? I talk too much sometimes. Ugh, I'm half blind. Plush, welcome in. It's Mike. I changed my name. You guys are trying to mess with my head. I'm old. I just turned 61 on Saturday, man. So be gentle with an old guy. But welcome in, Mike, and everyone else that's stopping by. Appreciate you. My birthday's on the 22nd, March 22nd, 1964, Bryce. I don't know how I made it to 60. Let me sit up in this chair. I don't know how I made it to 61 with my insane youth, but something bigger than me had a plan. Yes. So I was talking about family members and friends. Oh, God, don't make mistakes, my brother Bryce. There's something big in this conversation for you and me to have, hopefully. Maybe not tonight, but or maybe over a private message or whatever and start a conversation. But I appreciate you being here, my friend. And tonight I'm talking about that hope that comes from change. What's up, Plush? You guys can put questions in there too, and I'll answer them to the best of my ability. And if I don't know, I'll find out and come back. Um, but I want to talk about. I appreciate you having me. Hey, you're always welcome here. I want this to be a place where we can come and just hang out and have hope, man. I know some of the stuff I'm going to talk about is going to be dry, um, but somebody needs to hear it, and I needed to hear it, and I needed to learn how to clean my life up, how to straighten up, for me, how to grow up, and that was a major transformation. I went from a place of no hope to now that's all I want to give to others. Um, and so I was talking about these changes that happen when we change, when we choose to get sober or change whatever behavior or thought that's causing problems in our lives, everything else changes. It's like that ripple in the pond. You know, you throw a rock in and it ripples out and touches the shore wherever it reaches. Well, for us, or any of us, and I can't say any of you because I don't know your story completely, but for me, I would throw out so many dirty, tainted things into that pond that would ripple out and affect a lot of people. And was it any wonder nobody wanted me around? Is it any wonder that I didn't live in guilt and shame and didn't want to be around? And the only thing I could think of was drugs, alcohol, and chaos to block that out. Absolutely. And so if you reverse that domino effect or that ripple in the pond, and I start to do positive things, I start to practice honesty, responsibility, compassion, empathy, giving back, being of service, not doing horrible, terrible things. What kind of energy am I putting out into the world? What kind of a domino effect am I putting out into the world? What is the dragon? Oh, here? Let me tilt my thing a little bit. It's actually a metal lizard that my grand sponsor gave me from Indonesia. when I would go over to visit him, he would give me little trinkets. Like last time I talked about the smudge feathers. That's the lizard he gave me because it's one of my, he called it my spirit animal because I'm a dreamer. I don't just dream, I pursue making those dreams a reality. And in my own life, that's proven true in a lot of the people that I work with. And this here, let me pull this down and give you guys I don't want to break this. This is too precious. But I want to give you an idea. This was something that my sponsor gave me, and it was a bunch of guys with really a shady background on it. And each one has got a white robe on, is carrying a flame of hope and life and spirit that's interconnected with the source or God or whatever you want to call him. Let me put this back up before I break it. And I like to keep things like that to remind me of where I come from. Uh but that's what I do. I have a lot of little trinkets and stuff like that that men have given me over the generations of my life. Um, that's the important stuff, the stuff that we're attached to that gives life meaning. The man who, well, let me shift this a little bit. That guy right here, that's David. That's Papa G. David was a gentleman that ran what do we call it? A retreat up in Carmel in Central California. And yes, and it's a powerful totem for me. Plush or Mike, I mean, sorry. And so David, he would run these retreats for men that were struggling with problems in their lives, not just drugs and alcohol, because that's not our only problem. And he would help these men find a path back to sanity and a better life. And he was also an alcoholic. Rest in peace. And he was going into the prison at Soledad State Prison doing hospitals and institutions work where they would go in and visit guys and do meetings. And so David was going into these prisons and he met my sponsor, Richard. And for whatever reason, Richard and him hit it off. And then Richard ended up moving over to where we were at. Yeah, Mike, absolutely. You know I'm here for you anytime you need help, brother. I love you. Or DM me. Um, you can DM me. You can send me a private message on TikTok with your number if I don't already have it, and we'll have a conversation as soon as I'm done with this. You know I'm there for you, brother. Or tomorrow. I'm off all day tomorrow. I have a group in the morning from 7 to 9 with some first responders, but after that I'm available. Um, but so David was going into prisons doing this work to help men get sober and begin to transform their lives. And he met my sponsor, Richard, who eventually came and I met Richard, didn't know who he was, didn't know who David was. And so Richard taught me how to grow up and transform and change and be the man I am today. I do give, well, he would say God working through his experiences helped me, and I get that completely. I don't want to take God out. Uh huh. I ain't buying the 10. Like a rehabilitation program or something like that. Well, it was AA in prison. That's all they had. And then I met Richard, and he taught us how to grow up and change. And Richard passed away in 2010. And so when it came to me finding somebody else as an elder or a mentor, because I like that language a lot better, I picked David. And I walked with David for another 9 years, and his health was in decline. And in 2020, I flew out to Indonesia. I think it was the 20th of March in 2020, right in the heat of COVID. And it was kind of scary going over into Asian countries during that time, not because of anything other than the sickness and the illness that was going on. And I got to say goodbye to the man who went into a prison and met a man who I eventually met to help me transform my life. And the gratitude for that man and my sponsor who gave me this is a memento to never forget. And this is an ideal of what it's about to help other men cleanse themselves and find a better path, or some of the things that I really cherish. Um, yeah, those are the gifts. Those are the hopes. And now, I get to share that with you. I get to be there for my family. This is what recovery really is. But we could talk about all the ugly side of addiction. People trying to make stories, and I could probably have 1,000 subscribers and followers and all the bells and whistles if I told all the blood and gut stories of going through this process and what it was like before, and put out my gangster image and all that, whatever that would mean. I don't want to be that person, and I'm not willing to sell my soul for clicks or follows or subscribers. I want this to be something that's organic and that people subscribe because they want to have help. Amen. Thank you. Yeah, I mean, he ran a treatment center in Indonesia for 20 years. And they don't even, that's like dinosaur when they're in like a whole other generation of treatment. They don't even have a concept of recovery over there. He was probably one of a handful of people that was doing the work. And it's a real problem. So I'm grateful for the work he did and the mini touch. I still have a few friends that I met when I was over there in his facilities that still Facebook chat with me or send me a message from time to time. But yeah, I think it's important. Recovery in this journey gave me a family. It gave me you. It brought me to you and you to me. I've got a lot of friends and family around the world because of this work. I get to do it every day helping people and their families. It's an amazing gift. Um, do you all have anybody that struggles? Do you struggle? Are you going through something? I think that the last time we talked, Mike, you were struggling with some stuff in school, if I don't remember right, or bullies, or a kid said something foul to you. That was it. Um, and I just want you to know, if that's the case, you're bigger than that, you're better than that, and you're 100% a good young man. And I know you can overcome silly little things like that. It doesn't define who you are, and you don't have to accept it. And you can defend yourself if somebody puts hands on you, but you don't have to react or go around taking ownership of other sick people's language or words or any of that. That's just my opinion on that. If you guys haven't followed or subscribed, I'd appreciate it. Your likes help a lot too. Well, yeah, there you go. I know you see. I got old. I may be old, but I remember things. That's what makes me good at what I do. And I believe each one of us can have an amazing life. Um, Anything else going out there for you, Brian or Mike? I think I'm going to stay on about 30 minutes tonight. I got to work in the morning early, so for a couple hours. I might go live again tomorrow. Not sure. I need to do some more content on specific topics. So, you know what? Hey, I'll say this, Mike. Get ready for life. The homework that you do now is a prelude to life. And if you want a full life and you want a lot of things, freedom isn't free. You got to work hard for it. And your homework is a path to that. Good grades is a path to that. Nah. Okay. You can follow my path where I ended up. I didn't like schoolwork and all that. That's fine. I got to get up at 5 in the morning myself and leave around 6. So I get it, Bryce. Appreciate you stopping by and saying hi, checking in. Yeah, I'll probably not probably. See, I don't like that limiting or excuse language. I will be doing another live tomorrow around 2 o'clock, maybe 2:30, because I know you get out of school, Mike. Do one on getting bullied. Okay, Let me put that on my list. I won't do it so much on being bullied, Mike. I'll talk about that. Let me put this down. I'll talk about it in the frame of what does bullying create in you? What does it feel like to be bullied? If you're ready to get into it, and I mean, I don't know, but being bullied makes me feel I tomorrow I'll be on at 2:30 and we'll make that part of the conversation. See, those are the kind of things when we're little, growing up, or even as adults, being bullied, being spoken down to, being treated foul, impacts how we feel about ourselves and around the world around us. We start to question ourselves. I can't speak for you, but I questioned, why don't they like me? What's so wrong with me? And it ended up making me, well, it didn't make me, I gravitated to a group of friends where I fit in. But those friends weren't really friends in the context of what I consider today. We would smoke pot together, we'd do bad things. And I thought that that was cool because they accepted me. They didn't bully me. And maybe even some of them amused me, but it was different. It wasn't verbal, it wasn't physical, maybe manipulated me to do things I normally wouldn't do. But that began to change my life because that behavior became how I fit in and how I was accepted. It became who I was. All right. Well, I should be on. I'll start around 2:30 then tomorrow. 2:30, 3 o'clock. But we're going to talk. I'm not going to talk about it specifically as that, but the impact of it and how we can do something about that. Maybe it's better time to find good friends. Who, what? Why is this dude balding? Oh, wow. Well, thank you very much. Can I have another? You know, that hair went with the last 61 years and a lot of stuff in life. Oh, ain't nobody being mean. I don't even take it personal no more. Here's the gift of what we're talking about tonight. In I don't even know if sobriety is the right word in life. When you find yourself, when you know who you are, nobody can take that from you. Today you might say I'm the greatest thing since peanut butter, and that's great. And tomorrow you might say I'm the worst thing that's ever happened on the planet, and that's great also because I know who I am. I know what I represent. I know what I get up in the morning, what my intentions are every day, and I live that to the fullest. And nobody can take that away with words or actions. So I like to play too. It's going great, my brother. I was just talking about how life is different when we make a stand. When we make a decision to change the things in our life we struggle with or that are holding us back, anything is possible. And not just for us. Again, I want to go back to this frame of thought. When we change, everything around us changes. So if we've been going through life struggling, people don't want us around. We've trashed our family relationships, our personal relationships. Hope is a distant thing. We live in a little bit of despair and question everything. Maybe it's time for change. And maybe it's time for a different direction. Not maybe, it is time for a different direction. Um, and that's what I'm talking about tonight. And I love to have you guys here and talking about this stuff because maybe something I say will help you a little bit more along the way in a better life, however that goes. Or you might ask a question that I might have an answer to. Yeah, I mean, the thing about despair is this. I tell my clients that I work with every day, I don't want to hear about good or bad or right or wrong, all that bullshit. I really don't. I want to hear this. I acknowledge what happened, help me. Let's go a different direction. I liken it to do any of you have a little kid that you've taught how to ride a bike? Or you have the frame of that? Yeah? Give me a thumbs up if you've ever taught somebody how to ride a bike, or you have what that would look like teaching a little kid how to ride a bike. How challenging that can be. How many times that kid's going to crash. And one day you very well might. But think about this. We're like those little kids. We've lived a life of not knowing how to do certain things in a healthy way. We've made mistakes. And now we're being asked to learn how to live a new way. And that's like riding a bike. We're not going to do it perfectly. We're going to make mistakes. We're going to crash. And oftentimes when we do, we beat ourselves up. And I want to frame a reference here. If a little kid I'm teaching to ride a bike crashes, I'm not going to run up and beat him up or talk down to him or verbally abuse him. No, no parent, no adult would rationally do that. They would go up, they'd have compassion, they'd check if there was any wounds, are they okay, clean them up, get them up with the bike, get them back on the bike, let's go. And eventually they're going to learn how to ride the bike. They're not going to be afraid of it. They're not going to have that abuse attached to it. And they may just enjoy riding the bike. And that's what we do when we change. We learn to ride a bike differently. If you've played right-handed baseball your whole life, oh boy, you're going to try to hit me with a zinger. If you've played baseball right-handed your whole life, you have a neural pathway that says right-handed baseball. But if I said you can't do that anymore and you have to play left-handed starting tomorrow, you don't have a neural pathway that says left-handed baseball. You're going to have to learn how to play ball that way. That's really what we're talking about, learning a new way of life. All right, let's see. Uh-oh. Plush, what you doing over here? Oh, Mike. You all right? What's the question? Let me get my old SLB. I'm waiting. I may not have the answer, but I'll give it a shot, and if I don't, I'll tell you. Well, that's inappropriate, and I'm not even going to answer it. I think you know what I mean. I want this to be a place for people to come in and be healthy. And I don't know how to block questions, but not saying it's not real, brother. But, if that's a thing for something where you may want to get some professional help and talk to somebody privately about, um, because I don't want to get you in trouble or anybody else. Yeah. Well, prison was a hard one, and I didn't find much in there, but until I made a decision to change and show courtesy and respect. I know you don't, Mike, but there might be somebody on here that might be offended by that. And some things are best left privately with a clinician, a coach, a mentor, or a therapist or somebody like that. Because deep in our souls, there's certain things we know are inappropriate. It very well might be, but this is a open forum, and there's a lot of people here from around the world that show up from time to time. And I'd appreciate you kind of staying in the line with more um, appropriate space. That's all I'm asking. I don't like blocking people. I don't like going through all that stuff. I like to have conversations with people. Um, and I do appreciate you at least saying what you got to say. I'm not here to judge anybody, but I'd rather this be about healing and doing the right things, and I think you know the answer to that. I don't have to answer it. I get you did, brother, but sometimes you put yourself out there, and I don't want to break your anonymity any more than you've already broken it. If you want to discuss that privately, you could DM me or send me a message or email me at the email in my link. And I'm more than willing to have a conversation with you, but I don't want to do it in this context, in this forum. All right? Oof, what time is it? It's almost bedtime, man. Our early bed comes early to get up and go help people. Boo. I don't talk about things in my life sometimes in an open forum because it might be offensive to some. And remember we talked about the ripple? You could say dodging. If I know something's wrong, or I know that somewhere in myself it's not appropriate, I probably shouldn't participate in it or put it out into the universe to impact or hurt other people. And if anything I say can hurt someone, I shouldn't do it. And if I do it, I should do it professionally and in the right context and the right set and setting. That's all. I ain't judging. I'm just saying I'm not going to get into that on this context on a stage like this, in a social platform. And with that, I am going to call it a night. I know. Hey, what I would love for you to do is show up with some questions about how you want to change your life for the better and some legitimate struggles that I could help you with, or we could help you with, or maybe some changes you're making in your life that are helping you become a better human being. That's really my hope. And I hope you come back. I ain't going to kick anybody to the curb. There's no sign over this live stream that says only well people are welcome. Everybody's welcome here to have a conversation. I just ask that you show respect to the community. That's all. And with that, I am going to call it a night, finish my popcorn and my tea, and take my old butt to bed. Peace. Keep doing the right thing. What I would say, LB, what I would say, here's the deal, and I'm going to do this for you. Go into my bio, in my email me, let me know this is who it is, and we will set up a Zoom call and I will personally help you and talk about that. That's my offer to you, not here. And maybe after we have our conversations, if you want to come on here and talk about what you might have learned or what's shifting, I would really greatly and welcome that. That makes sense? I don't dodge, I just don't put stuff out there that could hurt somebody. All right, I think you bailed out on me. Peace. Love y'all.